What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing my review for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1 Episode 8, Birthright. An episode that was 90% great, 10% what the fuck. I'm trending with Kate today. I'm Team Monarch and I'm Team Cool Ass Jacket. Come on, man. This show, Monarch giveth and Monarch taketh away. It's gonna be another one of those reviews. Well, I am happy to report that this episode successfully proves two things about the show that we have known for a while, but just haven't been able to prove 100%, but now I think we can. First of all, it proves that this is the formula that works. The past and the present together. That's the formula that works really well. I mean, we've never tried out an entire episode set in the past. I think it would do pretty well, but clearly those episodes set entirely in the present with the flashbacks that take us back 1 or 2 years, they're just not landing the way these other ones are. This is clearly the dynamic that works best because both casts support each other in incredible ways. This is what we want right here. This episode also proves my theory, and it definitely feels true at this point, that nobody in this show, nobody making it, bothered to double check with their source material. The things that they're basing this show on, they just have a vague memory of how it operated in those movies, and they never actually went back to make sure that they're right, because they're not. They never are. Until then, there's so much else to praise. So let's get into the great episode that we had here. I really loved this one. As per usual, I want to give a big spoiler warning for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1 Episode 8. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Apple TV Plus, also shout out Apple TV Plus for the screeners for this episode. I really appreciate it. As per usual, I'm not going to do a plot by plot, beat by beat breakdown of the episode, but I am going to go through my thoughts that I had while watching it. This episode was directed by Hiromi Kamata. She was the one who directed the last episode as well. So sorry, this is the first Monarch director to not get to use Godzilla. That is a shame. I would have loved a Godzilla scene in this episode, but it just didn't really make sense for the story, so I understand why they didn't. Now I want to get into the past plotline because, oh my god, I thought it was great. I thought it was so well done. First of all, Keiko and Randa are so cute. They are such a good couple, and also instantly recognizable costumes. The second we started, I knew we were exactly picking up in 1959. I knew where we were. Really good prod design and a really good way of reminding us of the first episode and their first adventure that we had on screen with them, the one that resulted in the disaster that leads to this show. It was a really good way to remind us of Shaw's inciting incident in the present. Shout out to the United States military for being awful in every single science fiction timeline. Is there one where the US military isn't the worst? Because they always suck. You got a scientist who says this thing is the fact, and the military says no, we're gonna do a military, and then they always mess it up. Shaw is caked up in this scene. Look, I don't mean to objectify, but I had to draw some attention to it because I couldn't not notice it. Shout out Billy for standing up for Keiko. He is such a real one. I thought that the way it was done was great, and also when you eventually find out what it was that Hatch is so sus of Keiko for, it doesn't make any sense, which just proves dude was a racist, and I like that. And Randa overall in this episode is just the best. We love him so much. He is such a great character. I also loved him punching the wall when he's so annoyed and he's trying to stick up for Keiko. And I think it's so funny that in 50 plus years they never repaired the wall. I thought the entire scene in the office was actually really well done, and you know what, I'll just say, over time Anders Holm's portrayal of Bill Randa has really grown on me. I still don't totally buy him as the Bill Randa we get in Kong Skull Island just because of Goodman's grizzled voice, and also there was such a darkness to that character, but I don't really care because Holm's portrayal of Randa is so beautiful and I really love it. Randa officially confirms here he's the one who founded Monarch in the first place, which is cool, I guess, but it still raises the question, what happened to the rest of Monarch from the 2014 film? Shouldn't there be more monarching about? Also, that doesn't make a ton of sense here because Bill Randa joins Monarch in 1952. That's an absolute fact. We know that because it's stated in the movie Kong Skull Island, but we also know because it's stated in the movie Kong Skull Island that Randa didn't found Monarch because Monarch was founded by President Truman in 1946. So is Bill Randa just taking credit for things that he didn't do in this episode, or was it just because they didn't double check themselves? Biggest H-bomb? Are you guys sure? Do I need to get into the whole rant about how horribly executed the H-bomb was in episode 3 again, or do you just want to go watch my episode 3 video where I go into big detail about just how horrible they executed that H-bomb? I think Keiko really should just warm up to the idea of telling them about Godzilla. I mean, at the end of this episode, we learned that's the right thing to do anyways, and while it may have some repercussions and they may try and build bigger bombs, well, in real life they don't, but we know that they might try. At the end of the day, Monarch still needs to be around, and this is the only way to do that. Rest in peace, Randa. Boy was shuffled to the basement just like Lind was. Monarch's big fear of the Hollow Earth is one of my biggest annoyances with the entire MonsterVerse overall, how they prove it exists in like every single movie, and yet it takes until GVK for them to officially be like, oh, it's here. And I hope this show kind of dives into why that is, but so far we're just still being told Monarch doesn't believe it, even though they have all the proof in the world. Shaw is such a great friend. I just always want to shout that out. He's just trying to look after his friends and their needs, and I really appreciate that. And the way he pushes them to consolidate their notes and to finally formalize their theories was really great. Okay, I'm a little confused about the timeline though, because now we're being told that they have 3 days before their budget meeting. And is this a separate budget meeting than the one that originally happened? Because Shaw missing the budget meeting is what got them in this mess in the first place. So what's going on here? The budget meeting was the inciting incident for the military takeover of Monarch. The fact that Shaw missed it, and now hasn't happened yet. Just weirdly inconsistent right there. We're also told in the last episode that they needed to get their notes together by the end of the day, and now they have 3 days to get their notes together, so what was that about? The transitions from past to present in this episode were really cool, and I thought it was really neat the way we were utilizing the same sets in past and present. That was really cool. I thought Keiko's little decorations were so cute. I love those little paper lanterns. It's always fun to see those. And I really loved the slow realization that the house is bigger on the inside. That was a really neat metaphor to explain the Hollow Earth. I also really like the tagline, "Beyond logic lies the truth." Not only is that a great tagline for this show, but it's just a cool tagline for Monarch in general. And Randa is such a good-hearted person. I just always want to shout that out. I loved the romance that was being developed in this episode. It was done so naturally, it was done slowly, it was done so real, really well executed. And I just want to shout that out because, oh my god, this show has fumbled the romance in other aspects. It's funny to me that the romance between Shaw and Keiko had this really beautiful build-up in the last episode with them, and then it completely dissolved. In this episode, we're seeing a much more natural and supportive relationship being built here that makes a lot more sense and that you can really get behind. And you know this relationship is gonna work because we've seen it in action. So I think it's really neat the way they're slowly building this relationship up, the way it was so natural, the way that Randa really wanted to admit his feelings to Keiko but just couldn't bring himself to do it. It was so beautiful. And I want to shout that out because, oh, what have we done in the present day? Oh, they've so fumbled the relationships that they're trying to build there. Well, I thought that Kentaro and Mei had a pretty decent build up to their relationship. I thought their flashback episode was actually really well handled. I can't even begin to fathom what they're doing with Kate and Mei. I think it is so awful. It's so unnaturally developed at this point that I don't even know where those two characters stand with one another or how they feel about each other, and that's a problem. We're 8 episodes in. I don't actually know how any of the modern characters feel about each other. I don't know how Kentaro feels about Kate. I don't know how he feels about Mei. I don't know how Mei feels about him. I don't know how she feels about Kate. And I know kind of generally how Kate feels about Kentaro and maybe a little bit how she feels about Mei, but not totally, and it's an issue. Remember how I was ranting in episode 2 about how Randa totally cost Monarch their future? Wouldn't it have been neat if he just filmed the freaking dragon sitting right in front of him and got the proof that Monarch needed to say, hey, these things exist and they're out there, but the boy didn't, and so now we're seeing the repercussions of his inaction. Oh, dude, pick up the camera. Also, he really confirms in this episode that the dragon is what sunk the Laden off the coast of Hawaii, which doesn't totally make sense to me, but whatever, I'll let it slide. Rest in peace, Shaw. Feels bad, but you gotta be honest, that's a better relationship forming than the one you were trying to get into. Using bugs to discover the Hollow Earth was amazing. It's also a good callback to the end of the episode with the endoswarmers, but it was really well done. I really liked that scene. I thought the whole thing was handled really neatly. When the kid showed up, I was shocked. I mean, that's Hiroshi, but I was shocked because he's too old to be Shaw's, so it took a second for me to settle into the fact that Keiko had a child with a Japanese man, but needed to form a new life now that he's gone, and I thought that was actually a really good reveal. It's fantastic because it doesn't include the really cringe reveal that I thought was gonna happen where it was Shaw's child, and I'm thankful that they didn't go that direction. It also helps to explain why Hiroshi is a Japanese man and not a mixed Japanese and American, because he's clearly not white. Did he just really take after his mother or what? And I guess now we're being told no, he's just a Japanese man, so it makes sense. Missing subtitles during that scene though, and it annoyed me because it's on purpose this time. Turns out this time it's intentional, and that would have been a nice way to discover that if it was done deliberately, where I was like, oh, the subtitles aren't on screen. But the fact that previously in my screeners I haven't had subtitles for when the Japanese people are speaking, it was confusing for me to be like, am I supposed to know what they're saying or no? That scene with Keiko and Billy, it was so wonderfully handled. They have such an amazing dynamic, and the writing was truly beautiful. It was so heartwarming. And when a human scene like this can give me little chills, I know that the writing was really well done. And the way that Randa just wants to be a good friend and look after Keiko and make sure her life is better, it was really, really well done. Another Another thing that was really well done was Puckett, who continues to be an incredibly entertaining character and steals the show anytime he's on screen. Puckett's reaction to hearing that Godzilla is still out there continues to be amazing and super well handled, and I love that he continues to go against the trope of the standard military guy who doesn't believe what the scientists have to say. This is a guy who is clearly terrified of the presence of something like Godzilla and just wants to handle it, and I really like that. Shaw is also an amazing friend in this scene, going out of his way once again to stick up for Randa and Keiko. And Puckett is so complex, it's truly amazing the way that he continues to give them the leeway and just understands that while he needs to punish Shaw, that shouldn't punish the rest of them as well. Getting into the present day plotline, I actually thought it was mostly really good. I feel really bad for Shaw because it's clear he's never gotten over the shock and hurt that happened with Keiko, and it was handled really well here. It's also fun to see that Monarch just takes big L's in both the past and the present. The current state of their HQ is so rough, and it makes it clear that going global and making themselves public was the right call, at the least from a budgetary standpoint, even if it does have enormous consequences. That Welcome to Monarch moment was classic. It was a great inversion of the sort of usual Welcome to Monarch moments we get in these things. And Tim is still just such a scene stealer. He's amazing. I love it. I love anytime he's on screen. And like I said in the last video, he might be my favorite character. I love him. Rest in peace, the Randa legacy. Ouch. It's such a shame that the dude was completely right about things like the Hollow Earth, and yet Randa was looked at as such a freak even within the organization itself as a result of them being ignorant. I'm curious that Monarch doesn't explore the idea that Hiroshi could be the one triggering these gamma bursts and causing the gamma meters on the map to explode, because the guy has a device that can trigger gamma bursts, so I'm surprised they don't bring that up. I mean, it's most likely not caused by him because it happens in all sorts of places at once, but I was curious that they didn't even bring that up as an option. I actually really like Verdugo. She has very little screen time in this episode, but she is still so memorable whenever she's on screen, and I really like the way she's played. I think the actress is doing such a great job. It's a really understated performance, and I really like it. I also like that Shaw is accidentally on the verge of causing another G-Day in his attempt to stop another G-Day. I think it was really well done. And still, Shaw makes some fantastic points about how bad Monarch is at containing the Mutos. Like, he has a point. Their little attempt at containing the Endoswarmers is clearly not enough, and so a middle ground is definitely needed, and it makes sense why he wouldn't think to jump to it, because he is clearly a man of action who has learned from experience that things need to get done in a certain way. And I think that's really effective writing. Tim is such a nerd, and I love it. The way he gets so hype over the G-Task despite the fact that it causes Kentaro so much pain is so funny. That was a really well done scene. I'm surprised that Tim isn't the one who put the pieces together sooner, that Keiko's death could link everything, but I did appreciate the way it all played out. There was a really good payoff in this episode too, with Shaw's previous conversation with Kate in the desert, where I too thought Shaw was kind of implying that he was the grandparent of Kate. And I liked that Kate held on to that, and it has formed this bond between the two of them that you see play into the end of the episode. And this is the best team up yet. Now we officially have Tim as a member of our team. I love that. I also loved the Goonies reference. I think that's a lot of fun. And we love the Goonies, so we're all here for it. Goonies also had an adventure into the underground. Oh, Kentaro. Oh man, what happened to your character? He has fallen from grace so far. And why? Why is he so whiny now? Kentaro being upset that Kate volunteered him to continue the search annoys me because, dude, you didn't have to come with them to Monarch. You didn't have to go with them. You didn't have to go to the HQ, and you could tap out at any time. And I hope Kentaro's word is true, that he is doing this for Kate and not for May. If it all turns out that Kentaro's doing all of this stuff for May, it's gonna really be frustrating because that doesn't make any sense with the way his character was written in the first few episodes. Feels like Kentaro had the biggest character assassination of the whole show, where out of nowhere he started to take major L's and the writing on him completely shifted to make him a whiny little brat. It doesn't make sense given how he was in the first 6 episodes. He has such an abrupt switch. I don't like it, and it's not natural. Tim is such a monster nerd. I love it. And you know what I was thinking during this show is that he would be such great friends with Newton from Pacific Rim. Those two kaiju groupies I think would get along really well. I also think they could have a duo that would save the universe and maybe the multiverse from kaiju invasions. The two of them are so much fun. Yeah, you guys are the only family Shaw has left, so be nice to the dude. I don't know how they don't realize that Shaw is a good guy trying to do the right thing. They're just so mean. Monarch has so many tools in it, like dudes with the thickest skulls ever. I don't get why they didn't just let Kate, May, and Kentaro head in there by themselves, maybe have Tim with them for backup, but the fact that they walk in there with soldiers too, it's like, what are you guys doing? You're not going to accomplish anything. Tim's slow discovery that a Titan lives here was really great, but it makes me question why the Endoswarmers weren't in the notes that they received and how that wasn't an official report on Keiko's Keiko's death. That was a little confusing. But the exoskeletons were really great, and I liked that the implication was that the things are growing. It was really cool. It did make me a little sad though, because this could be an incredible way for the MonsterVerse to have introduced Megaguirres. Think of if those things were Meganula or Meganeurons. If that's what the Endoswarmers were, and they eventually grew up to become a Megaguirres, that would be a great and fantastic natural inclusion of a Toho character into the MonsterVerse that could be really, really exciting. And I know that they didn't do that because they want to make new monsters and stuff, and that's fine. But when you have an organic storyline that supports a Toho monster, it would be really cool. I liked that the Hollow Earth tunnel here looks very similar to the one in Godzilla vs. Kong. That was great, and you love to see it. And I also like that Kentaro is maybe back on Team Shaw, wanting to close up the Hollow Earth portals, and if so, that's good, because that's where his character belongs. He should be on Team Shaw. That's how he was written in the first 6 episodes. Tim and Duval also have a really fun dynamic. I like that Tim's trying to stand up and be cool, and Duval's just like, dude, it's not working. I like that. Quit playing bad guy music over Duval and Shaw. They're not bad guys. It's also fun to see that Shaw loves Godzilla. He's a G fan just like the rest of us, and that he knew Godzilla's transformative gaze really worked on Kate. He's also a Hollow Earther, meaning he's like one of the smartest people in the show and is 90% smarter than everybody who we have ever seen work for Monarch. At least he knows what's up. I also freaking knew this guy has been to Hollow Earth. I thought it became aggressively apparent over the course of the show, but I'm glad we have official confirmation now. So certain that we're gonna go on that journey with him in the next episode and find out what he saw down there. I wonder if Hiroshi's falling out with Shaw was actually because of the Hollow Earth, as it's confirmed here that Hiroshi was originally resistant to the idea as well. And over the course of this episode, I started to realize that Shaw and Serizawa actually have a lot more in common than we initially thought, and both of them are just out to make Godzilla's life easier and support what Godzilla's doing. It's clear that they just have different methods in doing so, and so I would really love a scene where the two of them get to sit down and have an argument with one another about that. Shaw's rant against Monarch though was so funny about how all they do is crunch their numbers, and then when they're done they crunch them again. That was really great, and again it goes back to how indecisive Monarch has been over the course of the MonsterVerse. Kurt Russell just does a really good job in this episode too, portraying his trauma over Keiko. It's really well handled. And I also really love that Shaw still has so much respect for Billy, and is not just doing this for Keiko, but also to honor his friend Bill Randa. And now we arrive at the big ending of the episode where things just go off the rails. Like, first of all, Shaw, what did you think was gonna happen? You did not give anybody the time they needed to evacuate, even your own friends. And what did you think was gonna happen with Kate? You just think she was gonna go with you and not try and find her friends? Dude, what are you doing right there? I think he should have walked out into that main room with everybody and been like, okay, everybody start to move, because and hits the button to give everybody time to get out of there. But I did like that he risked his life to save Kate, went out of his way to save her, and was like, hey, I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. I'm here to catch you this time. I really liked that. I like that he grabs her arm the way that he wasn't able to with Keiko. Now we arrive at the big dumb ending where, you see, they should have died about 1,000,000 times right now. They should all be dead. In particular, May should be dead, but Kate and Shaw, also dead guys. Everybody there just died. What are we doing? May fell directly onto an adult endoswarmer, and I actually for a millisecond thought that that thing was gonna eat her as it was climbing back out of the hole. But then I realized it was actually even stupider, as she somehow fell past it into the very narrow hole where 1,000,000 endoswarmers were crawling out. Cool to see those things as adults though, but those things were crawling out and she fell past them into the Hollow Earth, and then Kate and Shaw fall into the Hollow Earth past them as well. I know that a big rock lands on one of the endoswarmers and crushes it, but there was more down there, and then they all three tumble in. What? Let me just run you through the Hollow Earth lore really quick. Kong Skull Island reveals the Hollow Earth as a series of tunnels that lead under the island. It's unknown how deep these tunnels run, but Monarch seems to write them off as only confirming that a pocket under Skull Island is hollow, rather than that the entire Hollow Earth is, so they clearly don't know for sure. We do know later on that there is one of those tunnels that links to the official Hollow Earth, but we don't know where it is exactly. You could theoretically walk down the tunnels we're shown pretty deep until you find the first Skullcrawler nests, and it's unknown if there's a vortex there that'll suck you into the main Hollow Earth like in Godzilla vs. Kong, but you can at least get pretty deep in there. In Godzilla 2014, Serizawa and Graham believe that the Titans have burrowed under the ground to soak in the planet's radiation in deep pockets, much like in the Philippines and in the ocean, but they don't believe that those pockets link to a Hollow Earth, so that movie doesn't really touch on it. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, we learn that there are vortices under the water that can pull you into Hollow Earth tunnels, and these operate very similar to the ones from Kong Skull Island, Island, where it's an exterior cavern to the Hollow Earth, not the main Hollow Earth. You can get in and out just as long as you have enough thrust. However, this wasn't the depths of the Hollow Earth, and so still it's unknown what would happen to you if you ventured further in, although we do know in King of the Monsters the radiation would kill you. In Godzilla vs. Kong, we learned that a Hollow Earth entrance was opened up on Skull Island and that Lind spent years developing a plan to penetrate it. He finally does so, only for it to end in complete disaster. Lind oversees a mission where his brother leads a team of jets and potentially Ospreys into the Hollow Earth. This was scripted, filmed, included in the novelization, cut from the film, but included in canon as it's still mentioned in the film many times, given a full sequence where Lind explains what went wrong. Lind's mission failed because there is a gravity inversion. The vortex has so much pressure and gravity that the entire team was crushed in an instant. They couldn't penetrate the Hollow Earth because it's an entire planet's worth of gravity packed into one single entry point that spits you into the main world of the Hollow Earth. The vortex within is too powerful. In 2024, magnetic imaging from Apex finally reveals the Hollow Earth as we know it, an ecosystem as vast as any ocean beneath our feet, with a complex series of tunnels that links to it. This explains both the Hollow Earth as we find it and the Hollow Earth as we've seen it in Godzilla King of the Monsters. I guess we're just being told that the Godzilla tunnel, the one that he lived in, had a very lethal form of radiation, whereas the main Hollow Earth does not. So finally, Apex builds the Heave, the Hollow Earth anti-gravity vehicle, and this is the only thing that can withstand the pressure and survive the gravitational inversion. It's the only way in. But did they ever think of just jumping? Because you could just jump on in. The only way that the ending of this episode isn't going to piss me off royally is if it turns out they go to a Hollow Earth tunnel and not the main Hollow Earth. If they fall into a tunnel, then I'll go, okay, what the fuck? They still should have gotten splattered because they fell thousands of feet. They should have gotten sucked through the gravity vortex and spit out with so much speed and velocity that they would smack the other side and splatter. But oh no, I guess not. Maybe the gravity inversion is going to make it so that they fall in, and as they're falling, they kind of get back onto the new surface in a way that doesn't kill them. It only makes them land and get injured. But like, that's a big leap to make because that would kill them. Nothing about them falling into the Hollow Earth should work, does work, will work. They've got to work their ass off to make me not just be so freaking annoyed at the writing in this show. It's not a hard thing to do. You have those Hollow Earth spheres that you're gonna introduce in the very next episode. We've seen them in the trailer. All you have to do is say that the characters get in those, and those have the ability to withstand the pressure of the Hollow Earth, and then you can do your little thing where if they fall out, the gravity catches them and they land, we go, oh, maybe it's just the design of the sphere was able to withstand it, but not really traverse it, and that's where Lind went wrong, was not building something pressurized enough to withstand the journey to the Hollow Earth. Instead, he used normal vehicles not meant to withstand that pressure, but not only that, but also they had too much momentum going into it. Whereas if the sphere falls in, then you could just say, well, it was built to take that impact. Whereas like the planes that they flew into the Hollow Earth were not. Either way, it's a really stupid thing because the entire plot of Godzilla vs. Kong happens for the specific reason of you can't get into the Hollow Earth. You can't do it. It's hard to do. And they had to use specific vehicles to do so. And now we're being told, well, all they had to do was jump. And they'd be fine. Kong was barely fine when he jumped into the Hollow Earth. The dude nearly splattered on his way down too. It's really annoying to me. And that's my big rant. This episode was really, really good all the way up until it wasn't, and thankfully it wasn't in the last second of the episode because the rest of it was so well done. And so overall, good episode with a really annoying ending. Hopefully the next episode is a great episode with a really annoying beginning. That's what I'm gonna hope for. But this isn't the Upside Down, which is how I think it's gonna be portrayed in this show. Like, you can't just kind of slide on in there the way that they do in Stranger Things. It's really frustrating to me. Anyways, good episode. I actually really liked it. Good character writing, good stuff. The only character that was out of place in this episode was Kentaro, unfortunately. Other than that, it was a really solid episode with really great moments, really great reveals, and really great payoffs. So shout out that. All right, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. What did you guys think of this episode? Comment below and let me know. I'm really curious to hear what other people thought of it. What did you think of the ending of it? Are you as frustrated as I am, or are you giving it a pass? Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.